We like to call it the Supernatural Hour. And now, our hosts.
Paranormal junk drawer. I've got a doozy for you. We've talked about ghost therapy. We've talked about ghost marriages, ghost divorce, ghost marital relations. We're going to talk about a haunted picnic table today.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's about the same as it's been for the last 50 years. It was about 1976 that this happened. It was actually Halloween of 1976. There was a Hollywood couple. It's in Griffith Park, which is near LA. I think Griffith Park is in a lot of movies and stuff.
Yeah, there's the observatory there and everything. It's a really neat area.
They were having relations on this picnic table.
They being just some people?
Just this couple.
Okay.
Not ghosts.
Not ghosts, living people, getting it on the picnic table, because whatever. And a tree fell over and killed them.
Just randomly.
Yeah. So, they're having a good time. Tree falls over, boom, they're dead. Okay.
This is the legend of the ghost of the sexed out teens that was killed by a tree on a picnic table.
Right. They weren't teens. So it was a 22-year-old musician by the name of Rand Garrett and an aspiring actress named Nancy Jeanson, and she was 20.
They're
barely out of their
I
tweens.
love how aspiring actress somehow qualifies that as an actual profession. Just saying.
Right? They did say it was just a little blip on the radars of the local news. I mean, they mentioned it, but it wasn't huge. They were cremated, and their remains were scattered upon the table.
What?
Yeah, so it's like, hey, you died here, we're going to cremate you, and then we're going to scatter your remains.
Mom and Dad were
Who
just
made
like,
that
yeah.
choice?
So they were killed, but the table survived.
Yes.
That tree falls down.
The table barely had a scratch on it.
I didn't write this.
I'm just seeing like WWE. They break the tables all the time without bodies on it. I can see a tree falling out and smashing the thing to pieces.
Well, just like bounces off of them. And boing.
I guess they're the cushion, so.
I think boing happened before the tree.
Exactly.
Hopefully.
So here's I'm going to make this worse. Here's what it says, okay? It says, by and large, laid to rest after their cremated remains were scattered upon the table and surroundings where the childhood sweethearts died in each other's arms.
Well, they made that sound nice, didn't they?
Yeah.
All I can hear
Much
is...
nicer than we did.
Better than his pants were down around his ankles.
I really
they
hope...
spruced it up a little bit.
I'm hoping they're playing the 80s songs. I just died in your arms tonight while they're just like spreading the ashes on the table.
Oh,
So bad.
It's
It's so bad. Okay, we're not done. There's
more.
There's
I thought that
more.
was the climax.
Once again, hopefully before the tree came down.
Right?
Oh my gosh. Okay. Needless to say, they're not very happy.
Okay.
Kind of spoils the mood when a tree falls on you and kills
Yeah.
Not very happy.
you. So yeah, they're a little pissed off. They're anguished. So there's a tree trimmer in the area. His name is Morris Carl. He had been given authorization to clear the fallen tree, because it doesn't look good to have, blood and guts and fallen trees.
On a picnic table.
On a picnic table in the park. So, he says, here I go. It's tragic and it's sad and everything, but we're going to go clear it out and move on. And he didn't really give much thought to ghosts or, the fact that the ashes were kind of scattered around the area. But he says, from this day on, he said, I can't summarize this. He said, Carl is quick to add that up to that day, he never gave much thought as to whether ghosts were real. But from that point on, I certainly don't give any thought that they aren't. So what happened, he actually filed a report with a supervisor. He got to the site about 10:40 a.m. on November 7th, and he was supposed to be joined by two other co-workers that were going to have a big truck and a loader to remove it. So it sounds like it was a pretty big tree. So it's probably old.
Well, it killed two people, so I think it would be a pretty big tree.
Right, not just like a little... It was a little later in the afternoon by the time they got there. His job was to saw off the branches It was a sycamore, so sycamores get huge. They were supposed to, saw it up into more manageable pieces. He says he was only a few minutes into it when he was just overcome with a really strange sensation. He said he just felt funny. He said what had happened was he'd sawed off the crown of the tree when from out of nowhere he got hit with some strong chills. And he said it just felt like he was coming down with the flu. He felt fine before, started sawing the tree, and just, that feeling when you're getting the flu and you just get the chills and you just want to go climb into bed, just boom. He said it just, like in a second. He said, I tried to shake it off, but each time he'd fire up the saw, he'd get very cold and hear weird moaning and crying. So he'd stop the saw and he'd listen and it would go away.
I was expecting heavy breathing, but moaning and crying works too.
But then he said he'd start the saw up again and it would come back. And, he said it happened several times. And so he said finally he was freezing so bad and shaking so bad that he had to go get to the truck to get his coat. And, it is November. It's later in the evening. But he said it was colder than that. He said he looked back over at the tree and the tree just started shaking violently. And there was nobody, nothing around it. It wasn't an earthquake. He says he sat the saw on the picnic table and headed over to the truck. And that's when he started to hear it shaking. He says the tree just went crazy, not lightly shaking, but bouncing up and down as if someone was picking it up and dropping it. And if you guys could see, Doc is going to...
There's just so many opportunities for comment with this story.
Doc's going to burst a blood vessel over here. He's trying not to laugh so hard. All right, so there's more. Hang on.
This tree just bouncing violently on top of this picnic table.
Just wanting to get in on the action. Come on.
It was a lonely tree.
Was. No longer is.
That's the one with action.
We're having a hard time getting through this one. So he said this motion.
Uh-huh.
We were never going to get through this.
The rhythmic bouncing on the picnic table, yes.
Oh, that was helpful.
Okay. So it knocked the saw off the table. Okay.
Oh, no.
And as soon as that happened, the tree stopped moving. But then the moaning started.
We call that Afterglow.
Okay. This wasn't that funny when I read it online.
It's funny when you read it out loud. There's a difference between reading in your mind and then reading these out loud and going, oh, I really said that.
So the moaning started again. But it was accompanied by a warning from an ominous voice.
Use protection.
Where's your hard hat?
So much cleaner than the one that came to my mind. Oh, dear.
I'm looking ahead and it's just going to get worse.
How can it get worse?
If I can talk, you'll find out. Okay.
All right, we're good.
Okay. Okay. So there's moaning. Okay.
Everyone breathe.
Good thing we can edit out.
You can, because you'd have like 17 minutes of laughing.
I'm dying over here.
You know, if you don't have a blooper reel yet, you should probably compile one now. Just start taking segments and saving them, and then you can use it for your, your insiders. And be like, hey guys, insiders,
Okay.
bloopers.
Here we go. It's a good thing I didn't put mascara on.
This one segment took us 15 minutes to do.
Okay, here we go.
All right.
There's moaning. And Carl says it sounded like someone was sitting right there in the cab with him, whispering in his ear. And it said, "Leave us alone." I told you it would start. Okay.
Can't two ghosts copulate in peace?
It just gets worse. Okay, here we go.
You're gonna have a great time cutting this one.
Okay, here we go.
Who's cutting it?
Okay, so Carl says he tried to turn the car on, and it wouldn't start. That's not even the funny part. Oh my word. Okay, there we go. So he can't get the truck to start. The next thing he hears,
Dig deep.
the next thing he hears is a rubbing sound on the windshield.
Oh. Oh my goodness. A rubbing sound on the windshield.
Thank you.
Good story, Raven.
And it's not even done. So there's a rubbing on the windshield, and there's letters being written on the fogged up glass. Fogged up glass.
Is this like the scene of the Titanic?
Just sliding down the windshield.
I'm sure it's coming. I'm sure it's coming.
I'm sure it's coming.
Okay. So in the fogged up glass of the car, after the rubbing sounds, there's an N and an E, and the first word is next. Then there's a T and an I. Anyway, it ends up saying, "You are next to die," that he sees written in the window. He said then the truck finally started, and it says he burned rubber. And he said he left the saw right there on the ground in broad daylight and just got the heck out. He says, I still get the chills when he thinks about it, so no, there was never a next time. I never went back.
One night stand.
Exactly.
So does that mean that the tree's still there?
Did they cut down the bouncy tree?
No one was able to
I still have another page.
clear.
Anyway, it says that he didn't finish the job. Apparently, it turned into a huge joke. I can't figure that out. And it was about a month or so later, he said he asked him for the millionth time if I'd heard any new ghost stories lately. He said, I broke and bet my supervisor that if he didn't have, that he bet him $500 that he didn't have the guts to shut up and go cut the tree himself. So it's, still been there like a month later. His boss was like, sure, I'll take $500 from you. I'll go cut this tree up. And he decided to have this crazy idea to go up when it was dark. And it was the last time Carl saw his boss alive. The next morning, just after sunrise, a jogger heading up the hill along Mount Hollywood Drive found a city vehicle idling with its lights on and pointed towards the fallen tree. Sorry, I'm trying to recover from the laughter. So stopping to investigate, the jogger found Higgs flat on his back, not moving, and a chainsaw by his side with the blade bent into a U shape. And so, they called the paramedics, and they weren't able to revive him. He was gone. The coroner listed the cause of death as a heart attack, but Carl says he's pretty sure he died of fright. He says the fool's hair had gone completely white, and the paramedic who tried to bring him back told me that Higgs, who was the boss, had the most horrific expression frozen on his face as if he'd seen the devil. So it was pretty creepy. There was a police investigation, and they suspected foul play because they said Higgs's hands were injured and several fingernails were broken, like he'd been struggling against someone who was dragging him from the side of the truck and dragging him toward the picnic table from his truck. Carl was like, no, it's not someone, it's something. Anyway, so there we go.
Well, that's a really sad ending to something that we laughed so hard at.
I'm just amazed we got through it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I may have snorted like a pig a couple times, so sorry.
That was Griffith Park.
Griffith Park.
In California?
L.A.
Yes.
I'm guessing
Los
LA.
Angeles.
LA. Yeah, so Doc's like going to go there next.
That's right.
Google Maps.
Griffith Park. We're going to find the ghost sex table or picnic table. Here we go.
Yeah, so that is
Your drunk drawer.
our junk drawer for today.
We liked it. That was a fun story.
Yes.
Perfect.
And we made it a lot more fun.
Probably more fun than it should
Definitely
have been.
entertaining. I loved it.
All right. Well, thanks for listening. Last, get your Supernatural Hour swag at advancedparanormal.com. We have all sorts of exciting items there. Stickers, mugs, shirts, you name it.
Tapestries.
Always the tapestry.
Oh, is it? I love mine. And then we've got our own line of swag on our website, advancedparanormal.com. We've got sage sprays and salts and basils and everything you need for some cleansings.
Created by Rogue.
Yes,
Or-
they are.
And we'll have lip balm soon-ish.
You can get that at advancedparanormal.com/shop. So go out there and order your supplies.
And just a little shout out to some of our the friends of us is Dalton's. If you have not eaten at Dalton's, you need to go and eat there because it's amazing. We tried to go there last week, and they were closing a little early because of an event. We weren't aware of that, and we were super sad.
And Dalton's is in Payson, Utah,
Yes,
and it's delicious.
yes.
And we also have our pet-friendly friends at Utah Freeze Dried for Pets in Sandy, Utah, located at 9482 South Union Square. Yes, Union Square.
And I get my dog stuff there, and they love it.
And we do need to do a patron shout out. We have a new patron this week, and that's Sandy.
I've met Sandy, and she's awesome.
And she's a postal insider. We're glad to have her supporting us through Patreon. So if any of the rest of you are interested in helping us with our podcast and helping us with equipment and the things that we're doing, go out to patreon.com/supernatural-hour and please join and help us with Patreon.
Thank you, Sandy.
Yes, thank you.
Well, stay spooky, my haunty friends.
Love you, Nicholas.
Good night.
Have a good one.
You've been listening to the Supernatural Hour at AdvancedParanormal.com. The Supernatural Hour is part of the Radio Ronin network found at RadioRonin.com. Copyright 2021 by Advanced Paranormal Services.